striking there from Leo Xavier. Good combination, landing the right hand too.
Almost looking for the takedown there was Vyron Phillips. Very good ground and pound in his first fight in the Hard Knocks cage. Looking for an arm drag there was Leo Xavier.
Good wrestling technique.
Not something you see all that often in the MMA cage.
Good work by Xavier. The best way to neutralize the reach of Vyron Phillips and the explosiveness is to lean up against him on the cage, throw those knees, try and take away that power base in those legs. All of Vyron Phillips' shots come from the hips and as he throws his hips. So if you can damage those legs, that is going to be a key to success for Leo Xavier.
Another knee to the back of the leg of Vyron Phillips. Leo Xavier's had Phillips up against the cage since the early going. And again, as you mentioned, Jeremy, trying to take him down, and a low blow there, as Leo Xavier will take a break as up to 5 minutes awarded. Certainly not an intentional low blow, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, we will get a break for Leo Xavier. He'll get up to 5 minutes, and again, this one looks like it hit him pretty hard.
And again, take your time. If you get hit in the groin, it can sap a lot of energy out of you. You have to make sure you take your time. And even the fighters who have experience need to take their time to be able to get ready to fight again.
So Leo Xavier still suffering the pain of that low blow. And Vyron Phillips is across. Hopefully Xavier can continue here. Some blood also on the nose of Xavier, I'm noticing now. Vyron looking across, obviously hoping the same thing we are, that he'll be able to recover.
And again, there's Andy Social telling him, make sure that you're good to go. Again, we have top-notch officials in the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship, something that's vastly underrated when you look at organizations around the world. The fact that we have Andy Social and Adam Cheadle is just, it's a blessing to have, because we know that the refereeing is going to be exactly perfect and we don't ever have to worry. Here's take a look at the replay. Definitely an accidental groin shot, and it definitely caught him in the cup. And sometimes getting hit in the cup hurts more than getting hit in the groin, from personal experience.
So they touch gloves in the center of the cage. Some harm, a little foul, but nevertheless, the fight continues.
That kick was millimeters from the face of Vyron Phillips.
Again, big striking coming in from both of these fighters, and the long limbs of Leo Xavier. Vyron Phillips has an 83-inch reach, but Xavier using his legs to try and keep him at bay, and now has him up against the cage.
When again, pushing up and trying to take away the power base for that striking of Vyron Phillips. This is good work by Leo Xavier. We thought that he'd be going straight for takedowns, and it does look like he's going for a takedown here, but only after landing some pretty significant strikes.
So Leo Xavier with Vyron Phillips up against the cage, similar to a spot earlier in the fight, as they try and secure the takedown. And there is the takedown now, and now right to the back of Vyron Phillips is Leo Xavier. Phillips guiding again, hearing that he's got lots of time, about half a round to go here with 2.5 minutes, and now the arm around the neck, but Phillips defending it 2-on-1, pushing that arm away. But Xavier had a smile on his face momentarily. You got to think that this guy's very comfortable in this position. Now the arm again around the neck, around the chin of Vyron Phillips, and Xavier trying to get that second arm in so he can crank on the pressure.
Excellent work here by Vyron Phillips defending this rear naked choke. He attacks the hand that's trying to go in underneath the neck and peel it down. Every single time that he loses that one, he concentrates on the free hand, the one that's going to come in and do the lock. So good work here in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu defense against one of the best in the country in Leo Xavier.
So Leo Xavier again trying to find that problem, trying to find that connection on the rear naked choke. May have it here. Vyron Phillips with 1:27 to go in the first round. Scrambles out and gets himself out of the rear naked choke.
Vyron Phillips had the chin in, and again, a lot of pressure on the chin and jaw when that rear naked choke is on and not underneath. But an excellent job by Vyron Phillips here to defend this fight.
Xavier again still with the back of Vyron Phillips as he continues to fight off and fight against this submission. And you can see again just holding that one hand at bay regardless of which side it's on, preventing it from getting in there and locking the choke in, just having his arm draped across his neck but not really worrying about it as long as the second arm doesn't get in.
Well, a great advantage of having the gloves as compared to regular jiu-jitsu when you don't have the gloves, you can't hold that hand. With the gloves you can, and now Vyron Phillips on top, and a nice high guard here from Leo Xavier.
Xavier now maybe looking for the triangle, maybe looking for an arm bar, but Vyron Phillips both arms in. Some admonishment from our referee for having his feet locked in the cage. And now Vyron Phillips postures up. A couple seconds left in round one. He throws him against the cage, but Xavier closes the distance. A big knee to the midsection, and that will get us to the end of round one. Both fighters, a solid performance here in round number one. And Phillips with the Phillips trunks, the Jayco trunks, out of the red corner, the blue corner for Leo Xavier. A little slower pace here to start round two, a little more timing being found, a little more reach being found, and a big right hand snuck through on Xavier, but he shakes it off. Vyron Phillips stalking him, keeping him to the outside of the cage.
Vyron Phillips' punches come with a lot of authority, and when they land, you can feel it vibrate through the cage. So again, Leo Xavier has to get inside of that reach and has to get back to that grappling game and pushing him up against the cage that he was so effective with in round one.
Leg kick comes in.
Nice leg kick.
Looking for the double leg is Xavier, and he secures it. Started high, moved down low.
And there was some good work by Vyron Phillips lifting up on the head of Leo Xavier, trying to get him out of position, but at that moment he also has to give ground. He has to be able to retreat to be able to stretch Leo Xavier out. Leo Xavier was faster and was able to keep up, and that's why he secured the takedown.
So as he was in round number one, Xavier on top here in round number two.
Blood pouring from the nose of Xavier, so maybe he ate a punch on the way in on the double leg, but blood cascading out of his nose right now.
Xavier trying to find the back, has the back really of Vyron Phillips. Can't get that one leg around to get the other hook in though because of his positioning up against the cage. Phillips trying to explode out of it and does get back to his feet, but it's a short time before he's right back down to one knee as Xavier again works to the back.
Did an excellent job. After Vyron Phillips got up, he could have given up the position. He was tenacious with it, took Vyron Phillips back down to the ground. And although Vyron Phillips doesn't look to be damaged at all, the problem is that Leo Xavier is controlling the action. And of course, Phillips playing to the officials saying, hey, he's not doing anything, let's call it standing. And sometimes it works.
A veteran move from Vyron Phillips, motioning to the referee, hey, let's get going, let's stand up, let's stand up. And he does get the call from the official as Phillips had both of Xavier's hands trapped and nowhere to go. Big smile now on the face of Vyron Phillips.
Well, why not? He got out of a down position. He's back standing where he wants to be. Nice punch there from Leo Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier now punching and getting in close. Phillips landing a right hand in tight, but it's Xavier again pressing the action up against the cage.
It's the space that Vyron Phillips needs to create. At this point, he needs to work not only to prevent the offense from Leo Xavier, but he has to be able to get Leo Xavier up on the cage so he can create the separation to get back to that range where he likes to be in the striking. And again, I think Antisocial is being very impatient with stalling in this fight. He just doesn't want to have anything to do with just leaning and doing nothing.
Well, trying to really show some excitement here and make sure that these guys are fighting, because it's just really a waste of time. That position up against the cage, nobody was doing anything, nobody was advancing position. So the referee right on top of the action, making sure that these guys put a fight together.
Vyron Phillips in the center of the cage. He knows that if he gets on the outside again, he's going to be in trouble. Now teeing off on Leo Xavier.
And Xavier trying to push his way through. This time Phillips able to use the space behind him to get away.
And that's why it's so important for Vyron Phillips to own the center of the cage against Leo Xavier. When Leo Xavier comes forward, if Vyron Phillips has space, he's able to defend the takedown. If he's closer to the cage, runs into the cage, and Leo Xavier goes. That was a flying knee, and I don't know if that landed or if Leo Xavier just went down for the leg attack.
Well, I think Xavier came in and Phillips responded with the flying knee. Not sure how good a connection it made, but nevertheless, the fans were rather impressed by it. Phillips again stalking Xavier around the outside of the cage, landing punches, some nice right hand getting through, the left jab also scoring.
And Vyron Phillips throwing single punches and landing with them, but I think he's going to be more effective if he starts throwing combinations. If he can throw combinations to set up the big shots, nice takedown, that's where he's going to be the most successful.
Yeah, nice takedown there. Phillips winds up on top with short time left in the round as we get to the final seconds of round number 2 of a possible 3 here in the Hard Knocks cage.
Anytime you give a dynamic striker like Vyron Phillips a target, he's going to be more aggressive to try and hit it. But that might just play into that Leo Xavier plan. If he's overly aggressive, Xavier can take him down and get to work with that black belt jiu-jitsu.
Well, and it is a different game plan we've seen from Phillips this fight, because he's not carrying the fight forward. We haven't seen him back off before, and he's done it several times here. Again, a very quick double leg takedown here for Leo Xavier.
Vyron Phillips has the switch in, lots of pressure down, and there he's going to get the switch and get to a better position, but good tenacious work from Leo Xavier securing the leg attack. Vyron Phillips did everything right on the switch, but it was also excellent technique by Leo Xavier that was able to keep him in this position. And this is where Xavier needs to live, but he's got an official right on top of him. He must stay busy.
Yeah, already stood up once and separated another time. Leo Xavier does have to work to keep this position, to keep this advantage, and he's got to keep moving. Vyron Phillips landing a couple strikes from the bottom. Just those little rabbit punches to the side of the head. Not going to do any damage, just reminding the judges that you are staying busy, maybe perhaps in contrast to your opponent.
Look at the slow work by the left leg of Leo Xavier working his way into that mount. It wasn't a big step. It was just slow and methodical. He pushed his way through, was able now to get the back of Vyron Phillips, and this is definitely not where Phillips wants to be.
No, 3.5 minutes to go in the third and final round here between Vyron Phillips and Leo Xavier. Phillips able to throw the arm over his head. We'll see if he's able to get out here. Xavier trying to roll and hold him down. Phillips keeping control of one arm, keeping himself away from being choked.
But again, if this fight could very well be one round apiece and decided by this round, and if Leo Xavier can stay in control, this is going to be a very impressive win for him over a tough opponent in Vyron Phillips. And that's a good knee, because Antisocial right on top of it, maybe calling it up. Leo Xavier sensing that and landing those big knees to the side.
Vyron Phillips pounding that broken nose of Leo Xavier on top as he's just firing shots in while eating knees on the other side. Both fighters landing strikes here, and you can see Xavier, once those punches come in, trying to find them, trying to get out of the way. In the meantime, just landing vicious knees here up against the cage.
Vyron Phillips finding a way to stand up, and this takedown might decide the fight. If Vyron Phillips can keep this takedown from happening, he has a chance to come back in this fight. If Leo Xavier secures another takedown, it's going to be very tough for Vyron Phillips to get back up again.
as we see Xavier trying to find that takedown. Has the arm around both of the legs of Vyron Phillips, but Phillips able to stay up so far. As you can hear the coaches calling for Xavier to work on techniques specifically trained for this fight.
And it's the switch that Vyron Phillips worked on or worked earlier that Leo Xavier was able to get out that he has to avoid. And now Vyron Phillips has that wrist. And this is excellent work by Leo Xavier to take his back. But there's now Vyron Phillips. This is the space that he needed. And he's going to have to do a lot of work to erase that 3 minutes of control that Leo Xavier had. So we'll see if the separation happens from Vyron Phillips and whether he can land some more of that dynamic striking.
Yeah, I think if I'm Vyron Phillips, you want to get away from the cage. You want to get back into the center of the cage and start landing strikes, because early in the third round, he was landing effective strikes. But like you mentioned, Jeremy now has spent a substantial amount of time in the control of Leo Xavier up against the cage. Now maybe looking at a submission attempt, secures a takedown of his own. And we'll see whether or not he can make Leo Xavier tap out. Does release the hold, but does have control on the ground.
This is where he has to get busy. He has to know that he's in trouble and rolling through with trying to work on that Americana. But good work by Leo Xavier to get the takedown. The Americana through. That's a lot of pressure now by Vyron Phillips. Vyron Phillips with short time remaining must do something, or he might end up at the bottom end of a 2 rounds to none decision. 2 rounds to 1, pardon.
Just 10 seconds left, less than 10 seconds now with Xavier having Phillips up against the cage. That is the end of the fight. We will see what happens on the judges' scorecards. This one too close to call from my chair, as we've got very good fighters on both sides of the cage.